welcome to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. And now here's your host, Christine Larkin.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Genesis Global Radio, the origin of information. I'm your host, Christine Larkin. On today's segment, we'll be speaking once again with Robert Clayton Buick, author of his latest book, Assassination, depicting the murders of the Kennedy brothers and all of the players who were responsible for their deaths. I'd like to welcome Bob Buick. Bob, thank you for joining me again today.
It's my pleasure, Christine.
So tell us about your book, Assassination.
Well, it depicts all in whom were responsible for the assassination of the Kennedy brothers, when, why, who, and where, high-ranking officials in government, oil barons, the organized crime fractions, etc., etc. And I've been fortunate enough to be associated and corresponding with the Grassy Knoll shooter for the past 8 years. We have developed a very good relationship, in fact, a very close friendship. The man has never lied to me. He's never embellished anything to bolster his particular story or ego. And basically what I'm doing now is I'm going on planned book tours and mostly debates with all of the idiots that do not have any idea whatsoever what they're talking about. And first and opening question to each of them is I always ask them, were you there? What do you know about the substantiated facts of this particular subject matter?
Hey, Bob,
and what are your credentials?
Yeah. How long did it take to compile all of the knowledge that you had from personal experience, having met these people, to put it together?
1/2 century.
Oh.
I've been doing this for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Or nearly 50 years. The anniversary will be next year, 13.
Did it become sort of an obsession for you, like a life's mission?
No. Actually, it was very commonplace, and it was very docile for me to do it because of my personal knowledge, of my personal involvement. In fact, people ask me, I had a interview with Meredith Vieira a couple of months ago, and the first thing she asked me, she says, Mr. Buick, she says, why are you still here?
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, too. I mean, tell us a little bit about what it's like. On our last segment, we talked about more of the details of how you got involved. And then I asked in the last segment, how is it to walk around in day-to-day life? How are you still here, Bob?
I don't go into dark theaters, and I don't go out at night. I have state-of-the-art alarm and video at my home. You cannot see my front door from the street. I have basic security, and my daily itinerary fluctuates every day. For example, a gentleman called me from West L.A., supposedly, the other day and said, Mr. Buick, why don't you come up here some night? I want to interview you, and I'll buy you dinner. I says, I'll go you one better, Charlie. Why don't you come down here and I'll buy you lunch? Okay? I'm not going into West L.A. at night. That would be
taking your hands and your life in your hands.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about is the book, does it detail the intricacies of the plotting of the murders?
Yes. Let me put it this way. I write a book that is never redundant. I don't repeat myself, and I write it on the premise, if you're leaving Los Angeles, LAX, and you pick up my book, you can finish it by the time you get to Chicago.
That's good.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, people don't want to read almanacs today. And the only way you're going to look at 1,700 pages, there has to be a tremendous degree of redundancy in it. I mean, let's face it.
So the book is, it take us through a little passage in the book. Can you please create a scenario for us?
Well, I was there from the beginning and involved in this particular subject matter, authenticated by record, fact, and I'm still here to tell the substantiated truth about what really happened in Dallas that fateful day, the true facts of what happened in Los Angeles. Had Bobby Kennedy become the President of the United States, half of the high-ranking officials in Washington, D.C. were going to jail.
Yeah.
He was going to get revenge for the murder of his brother in Dallas that day. And I can't go into everything. And
sure.
It's all in the book. It's all there, and it starts here, and it chronologizes everything up to today, including 9/11, the people responsible for 9/11, the people involved internationally in 9/11. I'm going to give you just a little soundbite here. 19 of the terrorists involved in 9/11 were who? Saudi Arabians from well-to-do families associated with one famous American family. I'm going to leave it there.
All right.
Because I don't really want to reveal the plot, because this book has so many twists and turns.
I'm sure.
And curves that
yeah.
I'm throwing sliders in there that they can't hit out of the ballpark. Nobody can. You can't deal with these events from a presumptive manner. I mean, everything that I write, as I stated before, is substantiated by my personal knowledge, the information that Jimmy gave me. I sat down with Johnny Rosselli, who was part of the assassination team in Dallas that day. There were 4 shooters and 7 bullets fired. How do you account for the cracks in the windshield of the limousine? Okay? If you're going by the Warren Commission report of 3 shots fired, you're going to have to evaluate that bullet stopped 3 times in midair and changed course 4 times.
Yeah.
How does it happen? It's forensically impossible. All of this is just basic logic, but I substantiate it with unbiased witness testimony, forensic evidence, the paraffin taste of Oswald that he passed. He didn't shoot Tippit.
You'll have to read the book, Assassination, and there's a couple of ways that you can get it. You can write Bob if you want it autographed. You can write him a letter with a prepaid envelope. How big is the book? So they have to provide a sort of a manila envelope to cover that?
They can put it in one of those bubble reinforced envelopes, or they can put it in a little FedEx, package.
Great. I'll give out that address.
And it would be a great pleasure for me to autograph their book for them.
So, write Bob. It's Robert Clayton Buick. That's the formal name. Robert Clayton Buick, 23974 Aliso Creek Road, Suite 380, and that's Laguna Niguel, Nigel, California 92677. You can email Bob at bobbuick@hotmail.com. So, tell us a little bit about how you wrote the book and then how you subsequently got it published, which is another way that they can get the book at exlibris.com. That's www.exlibris.com. That is the publisher, or call them at 888-795-4274. So, Bob, how did you get the book published? Was that a process? Did you have to shop around? Did anybody reject it and say they didn't want to touch this?
Yeah, well, a lot of people didn't want to touch it. And basically, what I did was search for where I had complete control of the context. In fact, we had a legal fight. The autopsy photos, they didn't want to publish because they completely contradict the Warren Commission. There is a piece of gauze sticking out of the president's right temple, okay? And everybody is saying that he wasn't shot in the right temple. Well, there is the photo, him laying on the autopsy table. I finally got back to them, and I told them we fought for 3 weeks, and this was just a short time ago. And I told them, look, you signed a contract with me, you published these photos before, you better go to your legal department or you're going to meet me in Southern California, Federal District Court in San Diego. And it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're not going to beat me because you signed a contract. These photos were previously published in former books that you published and that we had contracts. They come back 3 days later and said, you got your photos, Mr. Buick.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never did get the opportunity to write about the La Fiesta Brava exclusively, but most of it is in my personal experience in my first book, which is a real good read. It's almost 500 pages, but it actually chronologizes my life in parallel to my involvement with the Kennedy assassinations. And it starts at my childhood, and it comes up to probably about 15 years ago, where I got involved in breeding thoroughbred horses and was very fortunate. It's very easy for me to write. Because as a child, I stuttered until I was almost 26 years old. So most of my communication was actually through my writing. But you go through hell trying to get the book published.
I want to thank you so much, Bob.
It's been my pleasure, Christine.
For upcoming segments, log on to www.genesisglobalmedia.com and keep your finger on the pulse of the hottest brands on the planet.